Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to talk to you about Hollywood's disdain towards redheads because there seems to be two factors. Either they race bend a redheaded character from the past into another race with no red hair, or they will cast a person who doesn't have red hair and dye their hair red. So this video will be broken up into two different parts, like the race bending and dyeing of the hair, because maybe redheads are being replaced in Hollywood. So a while back I did that Ninja Turtle video that my last video I just came out with. And I said how people are hating on April because she's black, which they are. And somebody said, some guy on Twitter was all like, they're replacing redheads and stuff. Now, I remember a while back, a woman said the same thing about The Little Mermaid, how she was upset because that's one of her favorite movies and it's redhead and, they're replacing them. The woman who said that does not have red hair. And when I went to her page, she is literally super toxic. She hates anything diverse and stuff like that. So I didn't pay attention to what she was saying. I'm like, okay, she's just a hate monger and everything. The guy page I didn't pay attention to, and I forgot who said that. And so with both The Little Mermaid and April O'Neil getting so much hate because they went from being white to black, it's hard to hear somebody's argument about the red hair thing, right? And because because they're constantly going on and on about race. And, these people are being hated on because of their race. And then I stopped and I thought about literally just a couple of seconds ago. I forgot what popped in my head. Something popped in my head. And I'm just kind of like, redheads are kind of being replaced in Hollywood, it seems, like character-wise and stuff. Now, I am a black man. I love woke diversity. I love when they include other people. I am also a man who loves redheads. I love them to death, and they're some of my favorite people on television. These are some of my favorite redheads in Hollywood, and some of them aren't even really redheads and stuff. They dye their hair, like Maitland Ward. She's really a blonde who dyes her hair red. Emma Stone is really a blonde who dyes her head red. But there are others who actually have red hair and stuff. And some people who have brunette hair, their hair is kind of reddish as well. And so so I've always been crazy about redheads and stuff. And this isn't a picture of every redhead that I like. It's just ones I can just think of on top of my head within a couple of seconds and stuff, right? But I have noticed something that I really didn't notice before. And it's always the same thing, and they always race bend into that same race. Now, you know me, I could care less about race bending a character and stuff like that because of the simple fact all this stuff was created millions of years ago when all they just wanted was white people in books and TV shows, stuff like that. And so I could care less if they race bend a character or gender bend or whatever, you know what I'm saying? But I have noticed a couple of things that a couple of famous redheads from novels or comic books and stuff like that, they keep race bending them to black people, I've noticed. Which just causes all those people to hate black people even more than what they did before. A couple of examples: Jimmy Olsen, Iris West, Wally West, The Little Mermaid, and now April O'Neil. These are all famous people from comics or novels and stuff. And they went from also Barbara Gordon from Batgirl, and so they've all went from being redheads and white redheads to now just black people and stuff. And I'm just kind of out of all the races, or not all the races, but out of all, I guess you could say the hair colors or whatever, to race bend, why is it always the redheads and stuff? That is very peculiar. And I know they want to add more diversity and stuff. And they always race bend on with black people, which of course causes those people to hate us even more. But why is it normally redheads and stuff? Well, it could be because redheaded people are viewed unattractive for whatever bizarre reason that is. Like, I have noticed that in Hollywood and stuff. And like, or just in culture in general, like you always hear the whole phrase of a step-headed red child or something like that. And and it's kind of weird that they say that, or like the bastard redhead or something like that. It's like, why do people say that? Like, why has that phrase become ingrained in like people's perception and stuff? And when it comes to a lot of redheads, they're Irish and stuff. And with the Irishness, they have a lot of them have very pale white skin, and some of them have freckles and stuff. So, say you have like a pale white person with red hair, people are always commenting on that as something that's being unflattering. Then you have the people with freckles who also have pale skin, but their skin tone is kind of yellowish and stuff. And they have this bright red hair, and people are always like talking about, oh, that's not attractive and stuff. I remember the Anne of Green Gables thing. Like, the whole thing with that is that Anne had pale skin, freckles, and red hair, and she was deemed unattractive and everything. And that's so bizarre, like something that happened hundreds and hundreds of years ago, where society has determined, oh, people with red hair just aren't attractive. Like, think about when you watch a period piece and you see those people with those powdered wigs and stuff. Who back in the day do you really see with red hair? That just wasn't a very common thing. And it's quite a shame too that people find redheads unattractive, because they are super attractive and everything. And it's just so strange and bizarre. But it's even weirder that every time they want to race bend a redheaded person they want to get rid of, they turn on black and everything. And here's my thing on this. If you are gonna race bend a classic redhead person, whatever race they are, just dye their hair red, and then people will shut up about the red hair. Because as long as they have the red hair, that's all that matters. Like, you need Supergirl with blonde hair, you need Barry Allen with blonde hair, you need Wally West with red hair. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care if they race bend, but make sure you get the hair right, the hair color and stuff. But like, yeah, there does seem to be kind of this erasure of like people with red hair when they make something modern and stuff. And I do believe it has to do with people just not liking redheads, and people like, whatchamacallem, and people thinking that they're very unattractive. I believe that's still set in the minds of people today. I mean, heck, even South Park made that episode about ginger people and stuff, and how like, and Eric Cartman wanted to like erase them and everything. There is a general disdain for redheaded people for some bizarre reason, but it's not black people's fault. We don't tell Hollywood that, hey, race bend this redheaded person to a black person. They do it on their own, you know what I'm saying? And it's just like, this is why there need to be more redheads people in like television and stuff. Because I remember like y'all watched Boy Meets World. Like, I just got through mentioning her name, Maitland Ward, who played Rachel on Boy Meets World. She had red hair, and it was very rare to see a person with red hair on television and stuff. It's very like I think her name is what, Carmike or something like that, from Pussycat Dolls. She has red hair. And of course, Gates McFadden, she used to have red hair and stuff back in her Star Trek days and stuff. And it was always very rare to see like a redhead, like, on television and stuff. And they don't cast that many redheads. And if they do cast a redhead, then they're normally like, the sidekick role or the best friend role or something like that. They never give them like a starring role unless you're Anna Green Gables and stuff. And just like I feel like there needs to be more diversity and more sexualities in like television movies, yeah, there need to be more redheads and stuff. Especially for those like myself who likes redheads and stuff. And so I just wish people would stop like getting mad at like black folks when Hollywood recasts like a redhead as like a black person and stuff. And because all that hate just does nothing good for a person, and it makes them seem like a bigot. But also at the same time, Hollywood needs to incorporate more redheaded people in their stuff. And I remember I had like I had a friend in college. He has red hair and stuff, and he has pale skin, and all that. And like people accepted him for who he is. I don't know why Hollywood just can't like accept those people, but Hollywood always goes back to the well. It's always blondes or brunettes, but mainly blondes who gets like a lot of roles and stuff. And people with dirty blonde hair. And I just don't get that. And a lot of people have to dye their hair red just to get more roles. Like, when Emma Stone is a redhead, they always has her as like a feisty person or like a very strong independent person. But when they have her as a blonde, that seems to go away after a while. Like she seems more like, she's still like, strong-minded and stuff, but not as strong and sharp and stuff like that and fierce when she's a redhead. But to chime in more on people living thousands of years ago and not liking redheads, or even hundreds of years ago and stuff, it's because a lot of redhead people came from Ireland or Scandinavian country and stuff. And those two areas were always considered to be very like poor type countries back in the day. Like a lot of people then, like Irish people back in the day, and there's a lot of blonde and also brunette Irish people. But there's also a lot of, Scottish as well. There's a lot of like redheads and a lot of like redhead Irish people and stuff. And Scandinavian people, they generally were not favored back in the olden days and stuff. And so there was always that misconception of, oh, if you have red hair, you must be from one of those countries and you must not be like, good enough and stuff like that. So that has kind of trickled down into the way a lot of people think about redheads, even kind of still till a little bit this day. I mean, how often do you see a person cast in Hollywood with red hair and stuff? The fiery red hair people love to see, but they don't cast on television for people to see and stuff. And and then because you always see the blondes, the brunettes, the black haired people and stuff, you never really see the redheads and stuff. Not every shade of red hair is like the type of red you would think. Some is copper, some is strawberry blonde, some is like a dark red, some is more like a brunette kind of red. So there's different shades, and that every shade is like very attractive to people and stuff. And of course, when you add it in with like the pale skin, to a lot of people that is off-putting and stuff, which is quite a shame. I mean, you don't really see that many people with red hair have a tan, because if they did, they would look very golden and stuff. But you don't see that on like screen. And so people's perception of what is glamorous and stuff doesn't always associate with red hair. And normally when people do dye their hair red hair, it's a distinct color of red and a very dark, bloody kind of red. And I've noticed something. Whenever they do need a redhead for like a role, they dye the person's hair red. Like the dude Archie from Riverdale, his hair is not really red and they dye it red. And like the actress from Reign who played Queen Elizabeth I, they dyed her hair red and stuff. Yet the actual redhead from Riverdale, she's not getting that many roles outside of like Riverdale and stuff. And it's kind of weird. Like, why couldn't they just find a person with red hair to play Archie or Queen Elizabeth, And so it's also kind of like, what's her face? Tilda Sweden or whatever her name is, when she played like the what was it, the White Queen, the Ice Queen, or whatever it was from that Narnia movie. She had blondish, kind of reddish looking hair, but more like blonde and stuff. And I remember when they took her hair down, she had this bright red hair, and it looked weird and stuff, because it didn't match the way it looked when she had them dreads and everything. Also, let's not forget like Kristen Dunst, who's actually blonde but had to dye her hair red for Mary Jane Watson. So it's kind of like, why not just cast an actual redhead for the role of that? And then, of course, in the MCU, MJ, I believe that's her name, the actress who plays her, she doesn't have red hair and stuff. And so it is kind of peculiar. Like, it doesn't even matter if they race bend the character or not. They won't even cast an actual redhead for like an actual redhead role and stuff. And that's so peculiar. Like, it really, really is. Even in Josie and the Pussycats, the movie that came out years ago, the redhead in that doesn't even really have red hair. She had to dye her hair red. And then, of course, for Riverdale, they race bent all the Pussycat dolls. No, not Pussycat dolls. Josie and the Pussycats, whatever they're called. And so it's like, I don't know. This seems to be, I guess, the only real true famous redhead there is Lucille Ball from the I Love Lucy show. But even when they remade that movie on Amazon, they had to dye that actress' hair red and stuff. Oh, let's not forget the lady from Lamb Chop's Play Along. She had actual red copper hair. Some strange disdain towards redheads, and just like in general, you know what I'm saying? Like, just in general. It doesn't even have to do with the whole race bending thing. It's just like, they don't like casting redheads in like Hollywood for some reason. And they always make people dye their hair that color. It is so strange and bizarre. I can't even like fathom as to why that is. I remember there was that redheaded girl from That's So Raven, but then a couple of years later she went blonde and then went back to being a reddish kind of brunette kind of color. And I'm really trying to think of other redheads I've ever seen on television in movies that have actually had a starring role. I don't think there's that many. There's Poppy Montgomery, but I don't know if she's really a blonde or really a redhead and stuff because she's gone both ways. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.